Greetings and welcome to the University of Minnesota Alumni Association's webinar series. My name is John Ruzek and I'm the Vice President of Engagement for the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. And so glad that everyone's here today. This is a unique event where we have both a webinar audience and an in-person audience here in the Lauka room at McNamara Alumni Center. So welcome to everyone both in person and virtually. Your career will span decades. Career success and job satisfaction are not automatic. It takes positive, thoughtful, and consistent action to advance one's career. In today's webinar, we'll give you some tips that you can use. But before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. This webinar is brought to you today by the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, where we're having conversations with experts about career, life, and learning topics. Initiatives like this webinar series are made possible in part by our Alumni Association members. So if you are a member, thank you. Because of our members, we can create powerful opportunities and ignite career success for current students in nearly 500,000 alumni around the world. And if you're interested in learning more, visit us at umnalumni.org/membership. Also, thank you to our partner in webinar supporting sponsor, Liberty Mutual Insurance. February is Career Month with the Alumni Association. We also have some upcoming webinars on the 18th and 20th, along with on February 28th will be another hybrid event here in the Lauka room, but we'll also be streaming it live, and you can sign up for those at umnalumni.org/virtual. Also, 2 weeks from today, for those of you who are maybe nearing retirement or are retired, we'll be partnering with life coach Richard Leiter on the power of purposeful aging. It will be an all-day event where you can get some really in-person, intense coaching from Richard, and you can learn more about that at z.umn.edu/purposefulaging. For those of you joining us online today, just a few items so you can fully participate in today's event. You have joined the presentation listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you'd prefer to listen over the telephone, just select telephone in the audio pane of the GoToWebinar panel and dial-in information will be displayed. Also, our presenter today has been kind enough to share the worksheet that our in-person folks have here in the room, and also a PDF copy of the Fast Forward Your Career book. And those can be downloaded via the handout section in your control panel on GoToWebinar. And if for any reason you're having trouble downloading those, I will include those with the webinar recording link that we'll email out to all attendees afterwards. And for those of you online, if you'd like to ask a question, please submit them at any time. I'll be monitoring them along the way, and ask that in the questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's featured speaker, alumnus and career success author, Ric Hinkie. Ric has always been drawn to communications with an interest in some simple skills from a high school journalism class. Bradley Morrison, one of the great communications gurus in Minnesota, chose to mentor Ric while he was an usher at the then new Guthrie Theater. A career passion was launched. By his studies at the University of Minnesota School of Journalism, and with a boost from active duty in the Army Reserve with the Department of Defense, training in news writing, photography, and public speaking, he completed his career prep. In various organizations over the years, Ric's communication skills helped convince the Minnesota legislature to build the Minnesota Zoo, create the energy bank with the city of Minneapolis to fund neighborhood energy efficiency, develop national distance learning certification programs in human resources, payroll management, and energy, and launch the largest online university for electric, gas, and oil employees. Always curious about how highly successful people achieve so much when their contemporaries didn't, he has interviewed over 75 successful leaders in the energy, government, healthcare, technology, and retail sectors to find out how they got ahead faster than their peers. This culminated in his book, Fast Forward Your Career. In today's presentation, he will share 7 success principles that you can apply right now to your own career journey. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome alumnus Ric Hinkie.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're going to, there's no selling today. No, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. This is just about wisdom that's been shared with me and the intention of the folks that shared with me was that I would share it with you. That's all there is to this. So hopefully there's an idea or two in there that'll help you wherever you are in your career. So that's what we're about. And we're going to do this and
Just one moment. We're getting the clicker.
clicking.
Hopefully here. Just for the time being, just hit down.
Sure.
And I'll work on the batteries.
All right. Put this over here and we'll do it this way. So down this way.
Oh, sorry. Actually, there we go. Now, here, actually.
There we go. Now listen. Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. Some people just do get ahead faster. Dumb luck, being in the right place at the right time. Who knows, right? Well, it just always was fascinating to me. Why was that? What did they do? There was a nurse's aide at the Mayo Clinic, one of 30. When I interviewed her, she was the chief administrative officer, responsible for every single employee of Mayo worldwide. Retail sales clerk, Sears in Chicago, is now in charge of engineering and operations for one of the largest utility networks, multi-state. The other fellow was a cadet engineer, ended up being the vice chairman of one of the largest energy companies over time. I got a chance to spend time with them and ask them simply the basic question is, so what did you do differently than the other nurses' aides? That doesn't mean the other nurses' aides weren't hardworking, weren't intelligent, didn't have a good education, but obviously, surely, you did something differently in your career. What was it that you did that made that difference? So that was the spirit of it. And in effect, what we're going to try to share with you are what are those principles? Try to suggest to you what I've learned are typical career mistakes. Let's not do the negative thing, right? And then hopefully you can be thinking about a career plan. Only about 9% of people ever actually make a career plan. We'll talk more about that down the road. So, I'm on the Maroon and Gold Network now. I'm enjoying connecting, hearing from those of you that are on it, what your issues are, what your interests are, any way we can help, that's where we're at. So, and today I'm offering a trade for those of you that are here in the room physically. There's a book on your table and there's a little worksheet, and I'd love to get that worksheet back from you if I could. I want to continue the resource. The purpose of the worksheet is to try to figure out where are folks like you stuck. Are you wishing to go in a certain direction and for whatever reason you're not sure what to do next, or there's an issue there? I've been doing this kind of thing, and so I don't know whether it'll end up in a revised book or not, but the point is, and it's private, by the way, it's just for me to kind of see where people are getting stuck. So that's the goal. And online, you can download, as John said, the same worksheet, and you can download the book in a PDF format too, free. Again, we're not trying to sell anything. Okay, so here's kind of the model, right? We are in a wonderful academic environment here, so models are big. So here's the model, and that is whenever you go into a career field, you're hired, whether it's brand new or you've been there a little while, you are establishing, to use a marketing term, your brand. And and that's your rep, right? That's your reputation, but it is a brand that you have. And so to establish that brand, you've got to get connected. You've got to get noticed in the organization. You've also got to do well, be a star in the job you're in before you can be thinking about where do I want to go next. And we'll talk in more detail about what that really means, because it's not just meeting your personal objectives to be a star, right? And then number 3 is, okay, well, what do you know about yourself? I mean, what's your personality style? What's your thinking style? What's your leadership style? And how does that relate to the people you're working with, because it can be quite different. And effectiveness has to do with understanding and appreciating those differences, right? So you end up with this model. Level 2 is, okay, so I'm there and I've done a little self work. I'm doing pretty well in the job I'm in. I'm trying to get networked and connected as we go forward. But now, how do I further differentiate myself? Well, if I'm in accounting, or if I'm in engineering, or if I'm in sales or customer service, what do I know about the whole organization? What do I know about how it prospers? And what do I know about what I do in my department that contributes to that success, right? So the more I know about the total organization and how it prospers, the more useful I can be, right? The other issue is to be ready for that next step. Because maybe in my day, you got hired as a management trainee and you spent a year wandering around IBM or 3M or Pillsbury or somebody like that. Not anymore. The only people that are in the promotion pool are those that are ready right now to be promoted. They're not going to wait. I'm sorry, but they're just not going to wait. So we'll talk about that in more detail. Growing as a leader, even if you're in IT or you're the greatest financial wizard ever existed within your organization, you're still a leader. And the more you develop that leadership skills, the more effective you are. And the last one is never say never. And we'll talk a little more about that. I don't have really good Asian food where I live. So I had some fortune cookies since my visit here. And this one says, don't be afraid to take a chance when the opportunity of a lifetime appears. Second one, opportunity knocks on your door every day. Open the door, right? Okay. So that's the counsel that came from whoever stuffed my fortune cookies. Okay, so just to show you how brilliant I am, the quiz here. What famous person recommends these principles? Work to become the best vision of yourself. That's principle number 3 in the book. Work with others for a common good. Identify shortcomings, then work to overcome. That's principle 5. Real success is about achieving a greater purpose. Who do you think? Huh? Aristotle. And just to be clear, I did not interview him for the book. There are times when I feel like maybe I was old enough to do that, but I didn't. So anyway, I just thought, pretty cool. There's actually a new book out. Some gentleman has researched all of Aristotle's writings, and these are the principles that he drew out of that. So pretty interesting. Okay. Sometimes people feel like, I got to manage my career. I got to manage my personal life. I got to manage my family life. Maybe I got to go back to school. I got to do all these things. I need to be Captain America or Captain, what's the new one? Marvel coming out March 8th, right? Okay, female version of that. And I'm here to tell you is you really don't have to be a superhero to make this work. First principle, get connected. Second principle, be a star. Third principle, know yourself. Fourth, understand the business or your organization. Ready? Whether that's education or whatever it is. Grow as a leader. And the last one, I thank my brother for, highly successful executives, be courageous. Use the butterfly moment. So we'll talk about each of these in a little more detail. But I just want you to feel good about yourself, and you're already there. Okay, let's talk about those typical common career mistakes, right? We'll start out on the negative side, then we'll build on the positive. Number 1, hey, I work hard. I'm fairly intelligent. I'm doing pretty well. What else do I have to do? That would be enough, right? company, the organization I'm with, bright enough, they're smart enough, they ought to be able to see, ought to be promoted. Oh, no, no. My boss likes me a lot. I know the people in HR. They want the organization to succeed. So I just can trust them. I mean, between the first and the second, I don't have to do anything else. Or third, my boss it's actually happened to me. My boss was the director of advertising and communications, and I was the junior guy, and I'm going to follow him all the way up, and I'm going to get to be the vice president of marketing. That's really what my goal is. And the only problem is he's either got to retire or die. I'm in this silo, and not the right place to be. There's only one job, right, up the line. Ironically, at this point in my life, I was at Minigasco, which is now Centerpoint Energy. And by the time I was ready to be the vice president of marketing, there wasn't the job anymore because we were in the middle of the energy crisis. And the last thing anybody wanted was utilities promoting energy consumption, right? So the job literally didn't exist. I wanted to go elsewhere and couldn't because I was not ready for anything else. The other issue is you guys are way bigger on social media than I am. Yeah, I run 12 websites and all that, but you're the pros, I'm not. And if you're trying to be Miss or Mr. Serious, I'm a corporate person, I'm really professional, and your Facebook page has the parties that you've been to in the last week, and you've got a grin on your face that says, maybe you've had a couple of extra grain belts or Northeasts or whatever than you need, that's not going to match. That's all I'm saying is it can be a downer for you, right? Another one is, this just happened, one of the research pieces that you're kind enough to fill out on your little forms. In front of you, this guy was brilliant, terrific guy. He was actually an engineer in the standards area of a major utility, and his boss wouldn't promote him because there was no replacement for him. And his boss knew that the boss's job would be negatively affected if he took this star performer out of there. And so this guy's name was John as well. An issue, right? Okay, so principle number one, a little more detail. And that is, it's hard to make a splash in the promotion pool if you're not in the pool. And virtually every major organization has, sometimes secret, sometimes published, but generally secret, a group that was looking at the future officers and directors in the organization. And these are made up of vice presidents and other officers around the organization, and they meet regularly and they identify high potential employees. And again, it's rare that you'll know that you're in that pool or not, right? But you want to be there mentally no matter what. You want to be ready. You want to be thoughtful about that. So the key people in your organization do need to know who you are. You need to know what you're doing, and they need to know what you're interested in. So here I was, marketing, communications, came out of the Hubbard School, all that stuff, advertising. I'm Mr. Whatever in that field, but I wanted to move into operations. Never told anybody. Never took the opportunities to do that. Okay. So
why didn't you tell anybody?
What's that? I just wasn't, I disloyalty. I thought I was going to disloyal to my current track. Good question. Question is, why didn't I tell anybody? I didn't think, it seemed like kind of hubris, and I was getting promoted every 9 months anyway, right? So this is a great track to be in. So I didn't know that I wanted to go there. Coldest I ever was in Minnesota, the old Minigasco bought an outstate utility, Little Falls, Brainerd, Alexandria, whatever. 82 below zero wind chill when I pulled into the Holiday Inn in Alexandria one night. Anyway, so that was that. Yeah, so my mistake, and nor was I ready because I never went sideways to get operations experience. So are any thoughts in the group here, ways that you might get noticed that won't get you put in jail? In other words, positively noticed? About? Anything online, John? Okay. Well, all right. Well, here we go. We're going to just do a few of these. One of them is, okay, so we just had a merger, or there's a new safety initiative, right? Or whatever quality control, whatever we're doing, I can volunteer for that kind of thing. And that's going to get me noticed outside of my department. It's going to get me connected, because back to that executive pool, right, that's making decisions about the future, you don't know who those other people are, and they're sure as heck not in your current silo, right? So you need to get exposed to the vice president of operations and sales and marketing and customer service and finance and all that stuff, because they're sitting on that panel and they're going to make a decision about you and you don't even know that, right? So there's that. Oh, lateral transfer, okay? Actually, research I've done with millennials typically is, I don't like that. Why would I want to go sideways? If it's not up, I'm not interested. My peers think I'm crazy for going laterally, right? But the more you know about how the whole organization works, and the more, if I had done that laterally before I'd gotten promoted a couple of times, I might have had a chance, right? In operations down the line. Peer-to-peer connections. And now mentor, big M, small m, okay? Depending on the size of your organization, they may have a formal mentoring program. Big M. You might even get assigned a mentor. I'm encouraging you to look for small m. You know, maybe small m means we might not even use the word mentor, but I'm just gonna kind of hang out with Maggie and see if she's got things to tell me, share back a little bit, maybe tell me, you know what, Rick, you're really pretty good in this area, but you might want to think about that kind of mentoring is huge. Hanging out with successful people, trusting my own team. One of the ways to get better noticed is to have your own team singing your praises, right? It really matters. It really makes a difference. Charitable volunteer. There was this case of an individual kind of stuck in his own organization, sort of plateaued, got involved in a civic organization, started raising money. I don't remember whether it was for Habitat for Humanity or whatever it was. And a CEO of another organization is on the board of this Habitat for Humanity, sees Eric doing a great job, has lunch with a CEO that happens to be Eric's CEO, and says, wow, you're fortunate. This Eric guy is really on the ball. And the CEO of Eric's CEO is going, Eric wasn't on my radar. He's not on my radar now, right? So that's the kind of thing that happens sometimes. Trade and professional associations. I would not have gotten hired to run a major national energy trade association had I not been involved in associations. When you think about associations, there are professional societies, right? So if you're in human resources or engineering, IEEE, Society for Human Resource Management, all kinds of groups like that, right? You can go to their website nationally and find out what that industry is talking about, what the issues are, right? And in the case, I came out of the energy industry originally, so I could go to the National Natural Gas Association and the Electric Association and go to their websites and see what are they telling the Congress, regulators, and in my own organization, there might be a state organization, a regional organization, and a national. So that's a place for intel. And if you get a chance and you're at work, you might want to volunteer. You know what? I'll go on that. I once upon a time ran the Blue Flame. How many people have been to the Minnesota State Fair, right? Right in front of the grandstand, there's a house. It's called the Blue Flame House. I was in charge of that for 3 years. And that's the State Gas Association, which led to a position on the Regional Gas Association, which led to a position on the National Gas Association, which is what got me hired at the Holmes Corporation here in town, because they were looking for somebody with that kind of background. Okay? And then, you know, there's creative ways. Obviously, you're unique. You have super skills. Just you'll think of things, but the key is get noticed. Right? We're not going to go through these in great detail. You can go back to the to the website here afterwards, but these are captured from forms like the ones you have in front of you. And that is, these are real people that are stuck. Be a star. What that, in this case, this is a lady that always wanted to be the entertainment person at the Republic or whatever newspaper she was at. Always got assigned obituaries, right? Or other police beat, all the other ugly assignments you get if you're a journalist when you first go forward. So she just went off and said, you know what, I'm going to go write about food, and I'm going to go write about the movies, I'm going to do all these things for nothing, and she just did it. Right? Eventually led to this. So what does it mean to be a star? Any thoughts in the group about beyond meeting your personal objectives on your job? Other thoughts there? Here's the secrets. Number one, a star. Now this assumes, of course, that you've met your personal objectives, right? I mean, whatever you're supposed to put round pegs in round holes for 50 of them a day or whatever it is that you're doing, you've done that, right? That's cool. But this is in addition to that. This is what it means to truly be a star. And that is, it doesn't do any good if I max out my performance and the rest of the team isn't doing well, because as a team, we're not going anywhere, right? So it is my job to try to help everybody else come along. That's number one. And number two, be a gap filler. Okay, so there's stuff that needs to be done. No one's asked me to do it, but I can see that it needs to be done. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to get started. I'm going to try to make it happen. I'm learning more about the business so that if I'm let's say I'm in accounting, and I come up with some brand new plan that solves a problem for me in accounting, creates all sorts of headaches for the sales department or the engineering group or whatever else it is. The more I know about what I do that affects the total organization, the better off that we are. The culture. Well, one of my colleagues was an officer in a utility and then moved to another state. Totally different cultures. The culture that she was at here in Minnesota kind of follows, more open-minded, willing to look for different kinds of solutions. Where she went, rigid, by the book, and being creative was not valued. And that was a huge change, and she didn't think about that much before she made her switch. Right? Personal goals are important. Expecting the best from the team, not being popular because you're easy, but holding forth with high standards is important. Trustworthy. If you're on a team and the team doesn't do well, it's not now the time to blame them or throw them under the bus. And then thinking about, okay, well, so where are we going next? What's the organization trying to do? And how can I participate in that process? My favorite cartoons, stars are never Lone Rangers. Talk about equality, right? We talk about team, but we really don't mean it sometimes. At least we don't live it. That's the key. And here's some issues again from folks who are stuck. This is the gentleman that wasn't going to get promoted because he didn't have a backup. And the case, it, you've seen him. Hey, I'm doing great. I'm the lead. I maxed out my stuff early, right? Doesn't matter, not unless everybody is successful. Number three. So what's my brand? I had a 360 once. I think it was 9 people evaluated me, meaning those above me, those on my peer level, and those down below. I had all kinds of 9s and 10s, had all kinds of 1s and 2s, nothing in between. And the whole issue was I wasn't going anywhere under those circumstances, because the higher I went, of course, the 9s and 10s, right, were people that knew me and my department and all that. The 1s and 2s were people that didn't trust me for a variety of reasons, and there were reasons to do that. right? So the key is, I'm suggesting you know what your reputation is. Figure it out. And part of that's how well do you know yourself? I took over this organization in 1990. It had been founded in 1905, and we weren't getting along. I'm thinking, why, they hired me out of all these other candidates. All these people work for me, and I'm not making slaves out of them, but why aren't we getting along? Why isn't this happening? I didn't know enough about myself. They didn't know about themselves. What we found out was I was a creator. There's a profile you can do called CARE, creator, advancer, refiner, executor, right? I was a creator, almost had no data points in execution. Everybody else were executors. And if you read the fine print of this program, it says, do not allow a creator and an executor to be in the same room at the same time. They will kill each other.
Yeah.
And this was a revelation to me, right? And the deal there was, I was frustrating the heck out of them because they wanted to know when, how much, expectations, deadlines, colors, stuff, right? Fair stuff. That's what they were used to because my predecessor had been one of those other guys. I'm just generating ideas. I got 10 different ideas today, and I'll have 10 more tomorrow. They're not all good. I need somebody to say, wait a minute, what does this one mean now? How do we figure out which of these we're actually going to do? And then how do we do that? So I had to learn to be more of an executor. They had to learn to be more creative. Once we did that, it was good. It was good. So, how well do you know yourself? Have you done a profile? I don't care if it's Myers-Briggs or whatever, but just part of it is, who are you? What are your main strengths? If you look forward, yes, sir.
So if you wanted to go into operations,
Yes, sir.
I would peg you as an executor.
Yeah.
So why did you want to go into operations as a creator?
Well,
I'm like you. I went into operations and I hated it. The minutia drove me crazy.
well, here's the opportunity in operations was be the vice president for the gas company in Brainerd, Minnesota. Your main job was to show up for the governor's walleye fishing contest in the spring, and then golf tournaments, and then do the ice fishing thing. I mean, it was more ceremony. I just liked the idea of being outstate. I was a hunter and a fisherman and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't like I wanted to be hardcore engineering kind of guy, right?
Okay.
More of a whatever. Okay. Yeah, but good questions. Good questions. And we talk about leadership. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. There are styles of leadership as well that come in. But the real good question is, again, back to that 360 or talking to your friends honesty here is important. Having somebody being willing to tell you the truth is huge. And then, okay, so if I'm the hippie, liberal, crazy Hawaiian shirt guy, and where I want to go, they're all dressed in the energy industry. If you don't own a blue blazer, you have a tat of a blue blazer on your body. So that if you go shirtless, you still got the blazer on. I mean, it's just part of the rules, right? So there's, it's fitting in makes a difference, right? Out the other end. Oops, did I do that? I just hit the button.
Just hold on 1 second.
Thought I just did it, but maybe I hit this. Ooh.
All right.
All right.
All right. I think we're back.
Problem solved. Thank you. So another issue, this may seem silly, but so what do you want out of your career? And I say silly, I mean, most people, hey, I want a job. I went to school. I want to get moving. I want a career. I want to be successful. I've got to pay the bills, all that kind of stuff. But the real issue is a lot of people think that I need more money. I want more money. So therefore I must go into management. Right? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. There are other ways to gain that. Question.
One question online. When looking at these, the person online asks, how can you take advantage of your mentors to answer some of these questions, and how would you frame that conversation?
Okay, cool. All right, well, one of the things that I would say first is just ask them. what's your sense of who I am? What vibe do I give off in the organization? You see me wandering around, you see me doing my job, how would you describe who I am? What do I look like, so to speak, in the mirror? That'd be a first question, and I would try to ask them. And then, it's great with a mentor to get involved with them. So what did you do, Mr. Mentor or Ms. Mentor, to get ahead? Right? What was this? Was there a secret that you had, or did you find something, or was there a critical juncture where you made this move, or you got promoted, or wherever you are? So that's important, engaging them in the process. Where do you think we're going as an organization? And what kind of future employees are we going to need to be successful? And then obviously that relates back then to, what do I need as a result of that? So that's another kind of response. So, it's really just a conversation. I had a mentor. I showed up one time at a meeting. I was frustrated. The guy that had hired me and promoted me, whatever, was now working for me. And I wasn't satisfied with what I was getting back. So instead of going through him, I went off on my own, had some outside organization provide me with a whole bunch of advertisements. I came in the room, threw them on the table in front of him and the vice president that we both worked for. And there was another VP in the room, and it was tense. Got out of the meeting, and this other VP grabs me aside and he says, Rick, everybody in that room knows they're going to work for you someday. They don't like it, but they pretty much are convinced it's going to happen. And you just told them that when they do work for you, you don't trust them. Their work isn't going to count for anything. And you not only shot yourself in your foot, you shot yourself in both feet. So you need to fix that so that they are cheering you on as you move forward, not reluctantly accepting the fact that for whatever reason, you're going to be leaving them. Okay? So that was a mentor, small m, who volunteered for the job, right? And he's actually listed in the book. I've credited him in the book because that was huge for me in my process. Okay. So, but back to the management thing. Carlson School, I was coaching some MBA students. They were seniors, and we had a meeting like this. And my co-presenter was the president of a major computer company here in town. He walks in the room and says to them, "If you don't genuinely love people, stay the heck out of management. Go into finance or some other aspect, but do not go into management, general management. Just don't do it." And of course, they were all kind of, we're the future of business. This is the Carlson School. Come on. And they didn't like it much, but it was the truth, and it was a huge lesson for them. So all I'm saying is, if you want more money and other things, just ask yourself, what will make me and bring me joy as I go forward? Because we're all going to work 40 years, 50 years, I don't know, but it's going to be a while, right? Okay, so we're going to move through these quickly. These, again, are folks who are stuck for a variety of reasons. Okay, big picture. And that is back to the proverbial pyramid, right? Light green at the top, that's the officers of the organization. They have got to know enough about all the other parts. So if you and I are down here in the really light green, right? We're working away, we're trying to climb the whatever. The more we can understand all the other parts, the better off we're going to be too, especially whatever it is I'm doing that affects the total organization. If I have an awareness of that, it's not just showing up at my desk every day and doing what I got to do. It's how does that impact the success of the total organization? So we're going to just keep rolling here. Okay, so I called it the big picture, and that is, what do you really know about your organization? And there's some pretty quick ways to learn about your organization. You don't even have to talk to anybody about it. Go to your organization's website, but go to the public relations page, the financial page, What are they telling the investors about the future of the organization? What are they telling the news media about the future of the organization? You can benefit from that. You'll see, and then go to the association. If you're in the automobile business, there's a car national association. I mentioned the energy ones, right? There's going to be an association that your folks are involved in. Just go to their national website and see what the issues are. That's one quick way to do it. What does it take to make people a success? All that. We fixed this yesterday. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, and the other issue is, okay, so you go to lunch, right? You go to lunch, you have coffee, same people, pretty much every day, right? Do something crazy and go talk to somebody in another division. At the old gas company, all the finance guys played cribbage at noon. I had to learn how to play cribbage because I was in sales and we were like Republicans and Democrats, right? So we had to learn how to get along some way, somehow. And then, it's always just casual conversation. So where are we going? What's happening? Look at the industries that have disappeared. A woman I know originally went to work for a company here in the Twin Cities, and their whole business was managing payphones for Target and Walmart and so forth. Well, they aren't managing payphones anymore. They're bigger than they ever were, but that's what they started with, right? So here's some things you can do. We talked about public information, employees in other areas. What a surprise. Go talk to customers, the constituents of the organization. Find out what they're saying about you. And a business mentor, that could be somebody that isn't even in your company, just somebody that understands business. And if that's not your big strength, then why not, right? And again, issues, folks getting stuck. Five, be ready for the next level before there is an opening. We talked a little bit about that before. They're not going to wait down the line. I should, of course, do a paid announcement for the University of Minnesota. You can always go to graduate school, right? Or whatever. Actually, John didn't ask me to do that. I just did that myself. But that isn't it. That isn't the only thing, right? But here's some things. So what is the education and experience at the next level? Who are these people? What do they look like? What's their background? What are their strengths? Now, I don't need to be a clone. I am who I am and they are who they are, right? But I can at least get a broad sense of who they are. If they're all MBAs, well, then there's a lesson there maybe, right? Or if they're all engineers, or if they're all finance people or what have you, at least I have to talk the game with them, right? Have some credibility as we go forth. Communication skills. So thankful for the combination of working at the Guthrie when it first opened, being mentored, Big M there, the Hubbard School here, and then at the same time I was getting military training from the Department of Defense in communication. So the three things together helped me. So whatever ideas I had in life, in business, were enhanced, not because I was any smarter than anybody else, but I could at least talk about them. I could write about them, I could talk about them, and that was a difference. That made a difference as I went along. Act the part. And I teased about the Blue Blazers before. Okay, so if it's a Blue Blazer bunch, then I probably need to have a Blue Blazer, or at least so I can fit in, roughly speaking. Again, not suggesting cloning, not suggesting just, not just doing that, right? I'm talking about legitimate authenticity, but I am suggesting that, if you think about it, in reality, it's like a club. Okay, so the officers in an organization, they're there, they're responsible to the CEO and ultimately to the board for the performance of the organization. Why would they want you to become one of them if you're not going to make their job easier, if you're not going to make them collectively more successful? So they've got to see you as adding value in that routine and not being high maintenance or not having to drag you along or lift you up constantly. Or the old song, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Come on, there's an element to that, right? And then, so what is my brand again? It can change over time, but I need to be sensitive to what that is and whether that's likely to fit. And then the other piece, back to the gentleman back here, tell somebody where you want to go and what you want to be. It's okay. It's not a sign of hubris. Go talk to HR. Go talk to your boss. And it's not like, hey, boss, I need to get out of here. That's not the conversation. But, as we grow forward, here's something I might be interested in. What would it take? Or how could I be more valuable here if I went laterally over there for a while? That kind of conversation. Okay, now, more education. I started an MBA program, not because I thought I was actually going to learn much more about my specific job, which was fairly unique. And, but I took business law and statistics and, all the stuff that you got to take when you do that, right? But what it said to my organization about my brand was these things. I can be focused. I can complete difficult issues. I can balance home, family, education, and work, right? It said all these things. So this is a pitch for, and that could be education. It could be a huge work assignment. It could be more training if that were the issue. But my point is, these kinds of things say things to that group that I talked about before, that mysterious group that's managing the high potential employees at a time. So I'm just kind of giving you the pitch there. I mean, it's like, that's the last thing I wanted to do. I got enough to do, right? I got great kids at home, like whatever, but there are benefits. Okay, stuck in the silo. We talked about that as one of the early traps in your career, being in that silo. Well, I'm the new accountant, and my next job is the supervisor of accounting, and then my next job is the manager of accounting, and then I'm going to be the director of accounting, then I'm going to be the controller, then I'm going to be the vice president of finance. Well, maybe, but you're limiting your opportunities, right? So that's what happens here. And I told you it happened to me. The job I wanted disappeared as we go forward. And there's a huge comfort. I mean, the big deal here is if you're the best engineer, the best programmer, the best systems person, the best finance person in the organization, good for you. I mean, that's terrific. The issue is that where you want to stay? Is that where you want to stay? Because to move means it's not about me anymore. I might be the best there is, but now my performance is based on everybody else's performance. I can't do the work of all these people. If I try to, I'll be angry. It won't be a good leader. I'll kill myself ultimately with work. So that's a trade-off that you've got to think about again, where you want to go. Okay, so this was a big one for me. Leadership skills. And in the interest of time, I'm going to jump at it. There's probably, I don't know how many thousand books in the library, Amazon, wherever, on leadership. There's leadership by Attila the Hun, his secrets of leadership, and books like that. I mean, they're everywhere, right? Based on talking to all these people and 23 years in the military and my own experience, this is my list. It's just my list, nothing magic. I think leadership starts with a vision of a better place. Okay? So I have to have some idea about how we can do things better, whatever better means. And then my job is to inspire you. So if I say, you know what, the University of Minnesota Alumni Association ought to go from 10% participation out of the 445,000 graduates to 50%. And we're going to do that in the next 5 years. Okay? And we're going to do that by giving away this amazing book or whatever, right? Okay. So whatever that idea is, I got to get you on board with that, right? some way, somehow. You got to join in with that vision and say, yeah, I could sign on for that. Not necessarily, I'm not buying into the book necessarily, but I'm buying into the idea. I think we can do that. We'll work together and make that happen. So that's the first 2 steps. Third step is, it ain't about me anymore. About us. Really about us. Because if it's not about us, then it's not going to last. The enthusiasm is going to wane. You're going to say, it wasn't my idea in the first place. Rick wasn't all that inspiring, and so forth, right? So that's an issue. And the trust. The first time we screw up, your fault. If you had only paid attention, we wouldn't have this mess, right? Dead, killed it. I just destroyed the entire team because nobody else trusts anymore. The answer is, we didn't get that part of it done, boss. I messed up. I'm the team leader. We didn't get it done. We're going to work harder. We're going to fix it and whatever. And you know that I got your back. And the next time, I'm going to make sure whatever I did or didn't do is going to be done the way it needs to be done. Right? Huge, huge deal. And then celebrate the team, even if it's little victories on the way. We're not at 50% yet. We're only at 11%. So what? Celebrate that. And it's about us in that particular process. And the other key is, if we could all end up in this room, we can all be leaders. You know, I might be your leader today, but you're going to be leader of something else tomorrow. So the more I can do to help you grow along the line, that enhances who I am and what we're doing. And the other piece of it is demonstrating that, like I said before, the creator, I had to learn how to be an executor. I had to show them that I could actually make stuff happen and do a spreadsheet actually, or whatever down the line. Okay? So leadership creds for women in the group, there is an issue with that. I'm sorry, but part of it is demonstrating, you know, that the assumption, and I hate to say it, but because I have twins, a boy and a girl, I've seen it. So there is an issue for ladies to think about getting those creds. Okay, never say never. And this is an actual quote from one of the sharpest engineers, Ohio University of Oklahoma graduate, petroleum engineer, very successful at 27. The chairman of the board of his corporation comes to him and says, I want you to be my gopher. Make sure my briefcase is packed, the limo is outside when I need it, and the airplane is fueled. That's what I want from you. All of his friends said, you got to be kidding me. You're one of the most successful petroleum engineers we have. You're not even 30 yet, and you're going to do this for him? You got to be crazy. 2 years later, he's a vice president. Why? Because he spent 2 years with the chairman of the board all the time, cars, planes, whatever, and talking and learning and appreciating the business. J. Mike Stipes, he's now got his PhD. His graduate degree in business, he chose a university that taught soft skills because he said, I am a bumble-headed engineer that does nothing about people. And I've got to fix that, right? I interviewed him for an hour. I got 3 stories out of this guy. He's unbelievable. Okay, so the issue here is never say never, get out of your comfort zone. The butterfly thing actually comes from my brother, who the day he was made vice president at Pella, he goes into the men's room, the board's meeting, he's just waiting to be called in the room to be elected a vice president, goes into the men's room, hits the soap dispenser and squirts himself right in the front. What's your normal reaction to that? Put water on it. Now what have you got? Foam. So he's now standing in the men's room with his pants off, running him through the dryer, the hair, hoping he doesn't get called until he gets his pants back on, right? But what he's done is he's taken his number 2 ahead of time and made him give the board the new pitch on the new Pella window line. And this guy is going, wait a minute, you're the president. This was your idea to make these new windows. What am I doing making this presentation? And my brother said, well, A, good for you. You'll get through this. The more you do these uncomfortable things, the more that they'll be natural for you, number one. Number two, I'm with you all the way. You're going to be successful. And so that makes you look like a hero in front of the decision makers, right? But the real issue is, what does it say about me? It says I'm brilliant because I got all these great people working for me and I develop all these experts, right? So, and it works, right? It works. So long story short, the issue gets to be, what are they? And we're going to burn through these. Now, relocating is tough. You know, it's not easy on your kids, your spouse. I get it. There are issues, lateral transfers, new people don't have that comfort. But here they are. Quick story. It's a true story of a woman at Excel. I won't mention her name. She was a human resources person. She gets hired by the president of Excel back in the day to come work for him, vice president. First meeting, she goes into the room. He's just completing his grand brainstorm of the day, and she blurts out, "That is the worst idea I ever heard." Very first meeting, all the other officers are in the room. He goes, dead. Meeting gets over with. He says, "May I speak with you?" At the end of the meeting, she's going, "Here it comes. I mean, I just screwed up everything," right? Calls her into his office. She goes in. He says, "Thank you. Everybody else in this room always says, 'Good idea, boss. Good idea.' And I need someone to tell me the truth. And I value what you said." Deal. She ended up being president of one of the divisions. Okay, so volunteer. Ask for a learning assignment. How about a career review? That's what human resources, organizational development are there. And if you don't have, if you're not in a, I mean, many of you are going to work for not-for-profits. The last 17 years, I only had 18 employees, right? So we didn't have a big deal. But I could talk to the people on my board. I could talk to my colleagues. What are you seeing in me? What are you hearing in me? What are you thinking is going on? And the whole analyzing yourself thing, right? And then, you know, some organizations are all by the book, right? I get that. But outside the box, and that's one of the cool things about Minnesota. I miss it very much where I'm at now. It's not that kind of place. So a quick mention of these guys. This is a Twin Cities resource. Highly recommend the book on the right. If you want to learn how to get a group to be authentic quickly and get going, that's it. You can participate in their activities. I was fortunate to be with them when they got kind of founded. And so now it's called the Center for Purposeful Leadership. When I'm on the Maroon and Gold Network, I hear a lot of people saying, where do I go to get connected? How do I get networking outside of my current folks? This is a great place to do that. And this is kind of what they're about. It's the purposeful side of leadership, right? So it's more the soft skills, but it's a cool group, and I highly recommend it. Just centerfpl.com. And then sometimes you just have to do it. Okay, so here's my question. What year was the Apollo 19 mission? There wasn't one. Me at the Science and Industry Museum in Chicago. Huh? Fake news? I mean, some of us still believe that the original moon landing didn't really occur, right? It was all done in a studio somewhere. Anyway, a little fun there. Okay, so final message is, please make a plan. You know, whether it's based on what I'm trying to share with you or whatever, just think about it. And you can make a ton of them, okay? So I could have made one, I want to go into operations, right? I would have thought it through, would have realized I got to tell somebody, would have had to get that lateral experience, never did that, kind of trusted things were going to come together. So I'm really encouraging you to think about where you want to go, what will it take to get there, right? That's it. Hey,
We have some time for some questions either here in the room or there are some online, but I'll give maybe the first call to people in the room if there's any additional questions. And I know some people may have to leave, but Well, one question that came online was from an attendee who most of her career journey has been self-employed with her and her husband's business. And so she's a self-described Jill of all trades, kind of done a lot of everything, but is looking for that considering new paths. So she's looking for any specific advice you might have for self-employed people who want to find a new career path, but don't necessarily know what their brand is.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let me start by saying I know most of what I shared with you today came out of research with people working in larger organizations, right? So when it comes to small business or entrepreneurs, it doesn't seem to fit, and yet much of it does. The get connected piece, thinking about what's interesting to you, what the challenges are, what the future might bring, how do I prepare for that, right? So my counsel to this person would be, what are you finding in your own work that you enjoy particularly? Out of all the Jill things that you're doing, is there something that seems to strike your passion greater than something else? Okay. Then is there any kind of organization, whether it be civic, volunteer, or corporate? I mean, we were chatting with our a staff colleague of John's here a little earlier about, I was volunteering and then this job was posted and now I'm here and this is all brand new for me. That kind of thing. I mean, right now, it's with the economy growing like it is, there's a tremendous shortage of qualified folks in certain fields. So figuring out if there's a match, that would be clearly one way to do it. The other thing is, undoubtedly they have friends and colleagues, and some of those friends and colleagues are business folks. So just saying, we're buddies, we raise our kids together, we go to soccer together, but how do you think I come off, in terms of my skill sets and my communication style and all that kind of stuff? So that'd be my quick suggestion. Yeah.
Any additional questions? All right. Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you, everybody, both in person and online, for joining us. This is the conclusion of the webinar, and I'm going to close it out from my desk here. But on behalf of the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, again, want to thank Ric Hinkie and everyone who joined us today for this Career Month presentation. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.